Hi, my name's Joe with Focus on Christ. Welcome to the Focus on Christ podcast. This is episode number 20. I am super excited to be with you today and to cover the topic and subject matter we're going to be talking about today. I think it's going to add a lot of value to your life, and I can't wait to get started with you. Today we're going to be covering the law of timing from John Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So before we get started, I want to remind you that if you haven't been over to focusonchrist.com or midlifechristless.com, that you go ahead and check those out as soon as you can. We're always adding new stuff over there, and that website is in the process of construction. If you're receiving this message today, it's probably still under construction. However, it's going to be coming out of that here real soon. And right now, if you go ahead and you opt in, if you give us your email and name, or you just click the Facebook or Messenger link, what that's going to do is it's going to place you in a founding member status. That means you're going to get more of my personal time with the coming products that are coming out. And you're going to have direct impact on how this is developed and implemented. So now's a good time to go over there and go ahead and get started with us. So like I said, today's episode is the law of timing. And it comes from John Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, one of my favorite books. And it's just one of those books you can always turn to and go to if you're having some leadership struggles. I recommend, if you have not been in a leadership position or desiring to be in a leadership capacity, or maybe you have been in that position for a while, but you've never read that book, I want to encourage you to go pick that up and give it a read. It's not going to take you that long. It'll take you a couple hours to make it through there. The principles are super simple. John has a great way of breaking the complex things down and making them simple so that they're easy to implement in your life. So I know you're going to love it the way I do. So the law of timing is when to lead is as important as what to do and where to go. When to lead is as important as what to do and where to go. And so that's the law that we're going to be covering today. We're going to be looking at this from the life. Initially, the teaching portion of this is going to be from the life of Esther. And then we're going to we'll quickly look at a passage from Ecclesiastes that's going to wrap everything up for us. I wanted to start off with a quote by Winston Churchill. It says, "There comes a special moment in everyone's life, a moment for which that person was born. That special opportunity, and when he seizes it, will fulfill his mission, a mission for which he is uniquely qualified. In that moment, he finds greatness. It is his finest hour." That's Winston Churchill was a fantastic leader in Europe during the Second World War, and that message speaks so much to what I am trying to do here at Focus on Christ and midlifechristless.com. It just speaks into that. I believe wholeheartedly that every single one of us has been gifted with a very specific mission and vision from God, and He has equipped us with the skills, talents, and abilities to achieve that and to do so greatly for service to His kingdom. And so that passage just resonates with me a lot, and it leads into what we're talking about today. If you are not familiar with the story of Esther, I'm not going to go into the entire story with you. We are going to cover some key aspects from it. The story of Esther is about, I'll refer to two names in it primarily. There's Queen Esther and then there's Mordecai. And Mordecai was, in essence, a trusted confidant of Esther and an advisor. And she was obviously the queen at the time. And there was a wicked man, his name was Haman, and he was trying to eradicate the Jews, and Queen Esther was a Jew. So that sets the framework and the stage for our discussion today. Esther was, we'll just dive right in. There's certain things that are going to happen as a leader if you do not pay attention to timing and you don't execute your leadership presence and privileges at the right time. And so one of the things that can happen is your fate's going to be the same as the rest of the crowd. In the story of Esther, what's going on is that Haman has his heart set on destroying all the Jews, and Queen Esther is a Jew. Now, she may be a queen, however, in these particular day and time, when the king proclaims an edict, it doesn't matter the edict stands. In this particular case, Haman was able to convince the king to set aside a particular day when all the Jews would be killed. And Queen Esther was a Jew, and so she was going to be killed. Now, the law of timing comes into play in this situation because Esther had a choice to make. When she went in to see the king, if he didn't hold out the scepter, then she would be killed. And if he did hold out the scepter, then the king would at least engage with her. But you still don't know what the response of that king is going to be. So Esther came upon the story that Haman was trying to kill all the Jews. And of course, all the Jews are distraught. And there's no correlation in the king's mind between Queen Esther and her Jewish roots and Haman and what Haman is doing. So Esther has this choice, and it's a choice of timing. Do I go in and see the king and gamble or risk the fact that he won't hold out the scepter and I'll be destroyed? Or do I accept what I'm seeing and the criticality of the decision right now? Do I go in and see the king and take the chance that he will hold the scepter and I can have a direct influence in the lives of people? As a leader, you're going to have moments like this in your life where you feel the Spirit working within you. You feel God calling you to a mission. And you have the choice. You always have the choice. He gave us free will. We talked about that a little bit a couple episodes ago. But we have free will. We can choose or not choose, or we can choose to or choose not to do whatever the Spirit is guiding us to. That's that free will component. That's why the world is the way it is right now, because the first man, Adam and Eve, they were given free will, and so they chose their actions, and here we are today as a result. So Esther recognized the timing of this was critical to saving an entire race of people. If you don't exercise the law of timing in your leadership, then you run the risk that God's going to simply replace you. Mordecai tells Esther, you have a choice. You can see this requirement for you to exercise your leadership capacity, and you could exercise it or you cannot exercise it. However, if you choose not to exercise it, understand that God is going to work his purpose regardless of whether you choose to lean into the mission and vision that God has given to you. So as a Christian leader, we share that same responsibility to listen to the Spirit working within us and execute the mission and vision we've been given. Now, it may be that you're like, well, I don't know if I want to, or whatever your excuse is on why you don't want to listen to the movement of the Spirit within you. But understand, regardless, if you choose not to do what you're being asked, God's going to find a way to make it happen regardless. It's not like God's will won't be done. You might as well go ahead and execute on the mission, because he's going to make it happen regardless, with or without you. And that's one of the risks of the law of timing. And of course, if you choose not to accept the mission and vision that God has given to you, understand that there will be consequences for that. Remember back to the story of the parable of the talents, where the wicked servant buried the talent and didn't even take it to a bank where it could gain interest, the most minuscule thing that you could do, and how he was rebuked and what happened to him because of his decision not to exercise his skills, talents, and abilities that God had given him. The same applies to you. You have very unique skills, talents, and abilities in a unique measure that no one else has. And you have a unique mission and vision that God has given to you. It's your choice, though, whether you act on that or whether you stand in judgment for not. You could lose more than an opportunity should you not exercise the law of timing well. And I just covered that a little bit. I don't really want to speak too harshly on this. I am not here to stand in judgment of you or where you're at right now. We all grow at different rates. Goodness, it took me 40 plus years to get where I am right now. Things take time. I get that. I am not standing in judgment of you. What I am saying is, if you continue to repress and not exercise the mission and vision that God's given to you, then there will be a consequence. I don't know exactly what that will be. And know that I love you, and I'm speaking from my heart, and I want what's the very best for you. And there's ways to figure this out. That's one of the reasons I do this, is because I've Because of the journey that I have been on, I have some experiences that I'll be able to share with you and speed you along in this process. And I know how good it can be for you and how good it feels to live into your mission and vision. So I want to share that with you. And you could miss out on your mission in life. Esther had her entire life changed when she accepted the mission that she had been given by God. The whole outcome of the Jewish race was impacted because of her decision to follow the mission that she'd been given and to go in and speak to the king and have the feast and bring Haman in and let the king know exactly what was going on with this wicked Haman. And then, of course, Haman was hanged on his own gallows, and it's just a tremendous story. But if she had not exercised the law of timing, then she would have missed her entire mission. God would have figured out how to do it another way. However, the Jewish race may have succumbed to being nearly wiped out and had to be rebuilt one more time. We don't know. There's no speculating on what it would have looked like if she hadn't have exercised that. All we know is we have this story that exemplifies the law of timing that's given in the Bible, and it's really, really awesome. So those are some of the things that will happen if you don't exercise the law of timing well. So in your leadership capacity, whether it be in your family, at work, in business, or wherever that might be, that you are having to exercise the law of timing. Let's put this in a little bit of a practical perspective. Should you not exercise the law of timing, you're going to be at the same risk as everyone else in the crowd. There are so many things going on in politics, at the local, at the state, at the federal level, and in your church and in your home, where you have the opportunity, where you will see things and know that they need to be acted on in a particular and a timely way so that the shape of the world will look more Christian. And you have the choice to do that. Or you can choose not to act, and then you can become part of the crowd, and then you just have to accept that. Because if you choose not to act in the law of timing, then you choose to be a part of the crowd, and you choose to be one of the sheep. And that's usually not the best place to be. Understand that God's going to replace you in whatever your capacity is if you choose not to lead in your organization, for your faith, for your family, or business. We have so many challenges in our families these days. We have extremely high divorce rates because the men in the family in particular have chosen not to lead their families well. They have chosen to ignore the law of timing. They see something happen and they don't act on it because they are spineless and they're weak. And that's so unfortunate. And I know that's not you, or you wouldn't be listening. Your law of timing is so much better, and I'm excited for you about that. However, we can improve that. We need to improve that. And there's so many ways that we can be so much more effective as leaders. As a leader in your organization, your business, or at work, or in your family, you could lose more than just an opportunity when you fail to exercise the law of timing. You could lose your family. You could lose your job. You could lose an opportunity to work and collaborate with somebody that would really shape and change the future of your business or your work or maybe your church. It's that simple, sometimes as simple as saying hi to the right person at the right time, and because you feel compelled by God to do that. Have you ever met a stranger and then they changed your life just simply by accident? Have you ever seen somebody that you needed to walk up to and engage with and just say, hi, hey, I felt compelled to pray over you right now. I don't know why. Has that ever happened to you? That's the law of timing. You can ignore that, or you can accept it and let God and the Spirit work through you. It's the law of timing. It'll be an opportunity that you'll never get back, though. You can't get those opportunities back. And you could, of course, miss out on your mission in life. You're going to be given all sorts of opportunities in your business, at work, in your family, in your church, everywhere. You're going to be given all sorts of opportunities by God. And they're going to either launch you forward or you're going to ignore them. Because God, remember we talked about God only works two ways, abundantly and perfectly. Do you really think he's going to give you something that's not going to propel you forward? Yeah, you may have to sacrifice something, like we talked about in the law of sacrifice. However, it's always going to move you forward if you're ready for that. Let's go ahead and carry on. How can we work to make sure that we are living into the law of timing a little bit better and be a little bit more proactive in that? Well, you need to keep constantly assessing the needs around you. You need to have your eyes open to leadership potentials. When I talk about it, and my mentor John talks about it, he says you need to look at things with a leadership bias. When you look at situations and events and circumstances, and so it doesn't matter if they're negative, if they're positive, if they're for you, if they're not for you, whatever, do you look at them with a leadership bias? Are you assessing the needs in that moment to see if this is going to be an opportunity for you to step up and lead, or to sit back and be an encourager so somebody else can lead? It works both ways. Leadership is not always the person in the front. Sometimes it's the person in the back that's helping lift somebody else up. It has so many windows and ways to look at it. However, you have to be open and assessing and constantly on the outlook to be ready to help and live into that law of timing. You have to, and the second piece of that is you have to make sure that you're looking for the opportunities that are in front of you right now. Many of us, we love to create opportunities. We love to vision cast and look a long ways down the road. Sometimes, though, in the law of timing, many times you have to look at those things that are right before you right now, and not lose sight of what's happening immediately for what you want to have happen way in the future. You have to assess the influencers behind you. In the story of Esther, it was Mordecai, and Mordecai was right behind her as her significant counselor and advisor, and just encouraging her along the way. With the law of timing, what you're doing is you're looking around you and saying, okay, who is around me right now? Who can I count on to help me move into this law of timing well, so I can take advantage of these opportunities and circumstances that I'm faced with? You need to evaluate the successes under you. Here in business, not every day is a great day. Some days are a real struggle. And you have to, and it's why it's so important that you always keep track of those little wins. So it's not the huge wins that are going to matter, because it may take 2 or 3 years to get a huge win in your business. It may be 6 months before you get a huge win in your business. But every day you need to look and assess, okay, how did I win today? How was today great? What did I do really well? What went really well for me today? Who was I able to help? Whatever that is, count your small wins, because those victories, when you start looking at those victories, it keeps you mentally engaged and looking in that leadership direction, in that forward thinking process. And you begin to see victories in everything, and it rolls and it escalates, and you get these bigger wins. And when you're looking at the law of timing, it's the wins that I've had, do they support me leaning into this opportunity at this particular time? And so you want to be accumulating wins, and then you want to gather and reflect on the experience, so when the opportunity comes, you can jump into it and be prepared for it. However, if you are not collecting successes along the way, you won't be prepared when that opportunity comes. And you need to have courage within you. You need to have courage. Leadership is not a game for the timid. It is not a game for the weak of heart. You have to have courage. And if that concerns you, if you're like, well, I'm not a courageous person, do you believe the Bible from A to Z? Do you believe the written word? Do you believe what God has laid out for us in Scripture? Because if you do, then you have to know that you have the courage, because where you lack, God will provide. Where you lack, the Holy Spirit will infuse you with power. When the timing is right, the opportunity is right, and the mission and vision is from God, and the direction is from Him, from God Himself, you will be supported. You will never be left on your own. You will always have enough. God will provide the courage when the timing is right, and it's not something that you'll have to worry about, and that should be fantastic. Imagine what it took for Esther to walk into the king and say, I have no idea if I'll get the golden scepter today or not. My head is literally on the chopping block. That took courage. It took a strength of character. You have that. You have that courage. You just being engaged with this podcast right now tells me that you are a notch above your peers. You stand above others. You have courage. And if it doesn't feel like it, let me speak that into your life right now and let you know that you do have courage. And I believe in you, and I believe in your dream, and I believe where you're going. And I'm going to stand there and I'm going to be for you when everybody else is against you. Hold on to that courage. And if you can pull it up within yourself, awesome. And if you can just take that step forward in the dark, God will provide that courage for you through the Holy Spirit. And you should be comforted in that thought. Let's look over to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. There we go. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, we're going to read through verses 1 through 8. This is a very short reading, and it has to do with the law of timing. I want you to frame everything you hear through the law of timing right now. It says, "For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather up stones. And a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to tear, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace." Here in the book of Ecclesiastes, it clearly talks about there being a specific time for absolutely everything. I hope that through reading through that passage, you can see how clearly God has a plan for every time under heaven. It's just that with what I've just taught you and what we've read there, I think it should be pretty clear to you how important timing is in a leader's life. I hope that you have a better understanding of the law of timing now, so that when to lead is as important as what to do and where to go. And that's the law of timing. Like I said, I hope you have a much better understanding of the law of timing now, and why it's so important as a leader that you exercise the law of timing well. And this may be something where you need some help. This may not be an intrinsic skill set for you. It may be that you need a virtual assistant, or you need an assistant in your office, or you may need somebody to help you to see and seize these opportunities and make sure your schedule is lined out so that you can lean into the opportunities and the mission and vision that you've been given. I don't know. This is not a law that is intrinsic and that can be worked on as easily in some cases as others. At least for me, it hasn't been. It's real easy to let your self-image and your self-worth and where you believe you might be in life hold you back from really leaning into the law of timing. And I want to encourage you to study this law and to figure out how that you can do a better job so you can elevate your leadership level as you go through life. As we're wrapping up today, I want to make sure that you've had an opportunity to go over to focusonchrist.com or midlifechriseless.com and check out what's going on there. Like I said, right now is a great time to go to those websites and get in and opt in so that you can be a founding member, so that you can really shape the future. That's what leaders do. We shape the future. We prepare to leave a legacy. And you can do that right now by opting in. That's going to allow you to shape how this curriculum is developed, to provide insight and provide, answer some questions and really direct the way this is going to go in the future so that it can benefit you more. Because if it just benefits me, then it serves no purpose. If it benefits you, then it meets the goal it was designed for. So I'm super excited about that. Make sure you stay up with us on our social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, our podcast platforms. And there's just a lot out there where you can connect with Focus on Christ and midlifechriseless.com. There is a new closed group, Midlife Christless. And on Facebook, I want to encourage you to go Google that and to answer the questions on there. We'll see if that's going to be a good fit for you or not. It's not a fit for everyone, but I want to encourage you to go over there and check that out, and we can talk about that there. If you have any questions or comments on this podcast today, please, whatever platform you're engaging with us on, I want to encourage you to drop a comment in there. I liked it. I loved it. I hated it. I had questions about this. Can you answer these questions? I would love to hear what you have to say. That feedback will help me to serve you better in the future. And that's why I'm doing this. This isn't about me. This is about you and how I can serve you as my audience of Focus fans. So super excited. We got a couple more laws to go before we wrap up the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. I am super excited about the ones that are coming up here real soon. So stay tuned and make sure that you whitelist any of the information from us so that it doesn't, if it's an email, it doesn't go into your spam folder. And I don't want you to feel that you're getting inundated. I want you to know and love what we're offering you. So I hope that this helped today. I hope it added some value, and I'm super excited about seeing you guys next time. God bless.